I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She's the author of the metaphysical mysteries, no other than Miss Brownell Landrum.
Hi.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Brownell, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Okay. Well, as you said, I'm Brownell Landrum. I have written a bunch of different books. My first book was a nonfiction book that was in the realm. It's called 5 Reasons Why Bad Things Happen. So when people say everything happens for a reason, that I literally wrote the book on it. And I've written several novels. I've written one series of 4 novels, and I have a new trilogy that just came out a couple of months ago. I also have some short stories that the listeners can get links to for free that I think you're going to love. I've also written screenplays and songs and a bunch of other things. So I love all different kinds of creative endeavors, especially writing.
Miss Brownell Landrum, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. Thank you. Thank you. So, what motivates you to start writing a metaphysical mysteries?
Well, I started my motivation to write my first book was that I was going through a very difficult time in my life. And I just kept thinking, this has to be happening for a reason. It has to be happening for a reason. And I just couldn't find any satisfying answers to that. So I decided to write, they say you can't find the book you want to read, then you write it yourself. And so I wrote that. And then that was in nonfiction. So at that point, I never thought I was going to write fiction. And then a few years later, I thought, well, I've got an idea. Let me try to see what I can do on that. And the first book in that trilogy, it's called the DUET stories. And the first book is kind of just kind of a typical kind of love story. It's not until you get to the second book that all of a sudden I started getting into the metaphysical mysteries, right? And loved writing about reincarnation and the afterlife and some of those kinds of questions that I think we all run around in our heads with, no matter what our belief system, one degree or another. And I found it just so much fun to write. It just like if you're writing any kind of love story in that regard, you write a couple, they meet, but then you get to write them all over again in another lifetime, in another time period, in different bodies, in different situations in their life. So it's been really, really fun to get into that. And then this new trilogy called We Meet Again is very, very much more, even more mystery. Like if you read those books, every single detail that's in there is going to be a clue. So if I talk about a green sofa, trust me, that's going to matter. Because I'm not going to just mention a green sofa just to give you a visual. It's going to lead you somewhere. So there's Easter eggs and clues throughout the books. And so that was even more fun to write, like really set up the mystery in advance.
Definitely. So, if you will define metaphysical mysteries, how would you define it?
I guess it's a pretty broad category, and I'm going to answer it in kind of a little bit of an angle, and that I have a podcast that you may know about that's called Life is a Trip Reincarnation and Afterlife Stories. And we have stories from writers all around the world. So if anybody that's listening is a writer and they may have a story for our podcast, please check it out and then let me know. It's not an interview show like this. It's actually just stories that people have written and gotten recorded. And when you watch that or listen to that, I should say, is there's a humorous ghost story in there. There's a very serious story about a girl that was adopted is having very serious existential kind of crisis. There are stories about a man and his father and how his Buddhism united him with his father in a very unusual way near the end of his father's death. So it covers a lot of different kinds of stories. Some of them are funny, some of them are sad, some of them are serious, some of them are just, touching. Some of them are mysteries of their own. So that's really kind of, anything kind of in the metaphysical realm. It could be reincarnation. It could be the afterlife. It could be, what people call the occult, which is just basically something, the definition of occult means hidden. So it could cover something, like I said, it could be a funny ghost story, but it kind of ventures into this whole realm. And one of the things that's really important to our stories and to my stories is that they can be fictional or factual. So we don't have to hold it to a standard of, can you prove this? What's the data? We can just tell really great stories. And kind of the motto for my writing is lose yourself in the fiction, find yourself in the truth, because there's somehow truth in that. And so sometimes the fiction can open up your minds into truths that maybe the nonfiction can't. So I don't know. What do you think? I mean, what do you think a metaphysical mystery is? When you saw that, what did you think?
Think for the unknown. Things that you
That
cannot
covers a lot of
see.
ground.
And very well said, Miss Brownell. Very well said. So, how do you decide on the length and structure of your book before starting to write?
Oh, that's a great question. My new trilogy, the We Meet Again one that I mentioned, by the way, the first book is 99 cents through the end of the year. So, go for it. Is that one I was supremely determined and very detailed on how I was going to structure it. I had actually started it out as an idea for a television series, and I could just see it coming to life as a TV series. And so and then when I got to writing it as a book, I thought I'm going to lay it out that way. And I've never seen anybody do this. I know that Blake Crouch, if you know Blake Crouch's books, he definitely writes them with the vision of how they're going to be adapted into television or film. Like you can see he's written it that way. Well, with this one, I actually structured it so there's 10 chapters in each book, and each chapter could be an episode of a TV series. And so you kind of get that kind of flow with the cliffhanger at the end, and kind of each chapter is its own story within the story. So that was really important. And then the other answer to your question is I knew what the ending was going to be or at least the big mystery. Like if we're talking the Da Vinci Code, spoiler alert, it's all about Jesus marrying Mary Magdalene and having children, right? Hopefully I didn't ruin that for
Yes.
anybody from 20 years ago. And this
Yes.
one has a very similar type of like, whoa, that's really, really interesting kind of story, or kind of mystery. And so I knew what the end was going to be. I think Stephen Covey, if you know that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of his habits is start with the end in mind. And I really did have an idea like, oh, when I had this idea, I thought, okay, that's the big one. That's the Jesus has kids, and they're still alive kind of message. And so I was writing it to structure it to lead to that outcome, if that makes sense.
Definitely, you're decoding something, Miss Brownell. So, what techniques do you use to develop well-rounded characters in your story?
I really, it's funny because I'm actually kind of could be considered an expert in personality types like Myers-Briggs and DISC. But I actually got into the Enneagrams for my writing. Have you ever used Enneagrams? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a website, I think it's called Crystal Knows, Knows. And that you can look it up, and we can give links, or people want to reach out to me, I can give you links. But I really love the way she structures the Enneagrams because, as you may know, there are 9 Enneagrams kind of in a circle, and each Enneagram leans one way or the other in terms of the one to the left or the right. And within that, it tells you some of the basic things you need to know about a character. You kind of get some of their personality things, how they behave, what's their thinking and behavior style. And also, this particular website I love because it said, you look at, it tells you kind of what their fears are, what their desires are, what their misbeliefs, a lot of the typical things that they teach writers that you need to know about your characters. And you can also go at kind of a discovery way with that, and do it where you can take the quiz like you would take the quiz for yourself. You can take the quiz for your characters. Like, how would they answer this? And so when you start looking at that, I mean, like with a couple of the characters, I read the Enneagrams. I'm like, okay, yes, I know exactly who they are. Um, but with some of them, I had kind of took the quiz. I was like, now I understand them so much better. So that's one of the things. And then also really love getting into their flaws, their quirks, their turn of phrase, maybe some of the music that they like to listen to. And, just try to get to know them as people.
Definitely. So, how do you maintain consistent narrative voice throughout your book?
Um, I think my challenge is kind of the opposite. In that, you've got to also have enough diversity among your characters in their language and what they would say and how they think to diversify that. So the narrative voice, I think is pretty consistent. I have written, if you look up my books, and I know you just had them on the screen, but if you look at my books, I have children's books. I have kind of romantic, sexy novels. I have, um,
Wow.
all different kinds of stories, screenplays, all these different things. And what they all have in common is you can tell they're from me. One of the themes that I carry through a lot of my books, like you can even say 50 Shades Deeper, it's about the deeper messages in Erica's books. But one of the themes that you can read through that is there's always a why. Like when the characters are in a quandary or trying to figure things out, if they get to their why, like, why is this happening? Why do I need to face this issue? Why am I in this relationship? Why am I doing this? You'll see that. And so even in the children's books, you'll read that and go, oh yeah, this is Brownell, and it's all in rhythmic verse versus, maybe a little sexier novel. So I think my themes and my messages are probably my most consistent thread.
Yes, you have already your trademark. When
I hope so.
Brown so what challenges do you face when creating a compelling plot twist or suspenseful moments?
Um, wow, what challenges do I? Well, the challenge of any plot twist is it's got to fit with what you've set up, but also take the reader in a direction they weren't expecting. Um, One of the things that I like to use um, to keep the reader guessing, if you will, is I am a huge fan of irony. And a
Yes.
lot of people think, well, they're thinking about Alanis Morissette song, I think. Isn't that ironic, maybe? But a lot of people misunderstand what irony is. But I've defined over 19 different kinds of irony. And I don't know if you know the film Promising Young Woman. Have you ever seen that movie? Do you know
No,
what movie
sorry.
I'm talking about? Well, one thing I'll
No,
just
not yet.
mention it just
Yes.
because it's a master class in irony. So if anybody's a writer and they want to understand what I'm talking about as far as irony, because there's one scene to the next and you're like, I don't know, like 1 minute it's kind of a romantic comedy, the next minute it's a thriller, the next minute it's like this very poignant drama. um, and even her clothing is ironic. Like you expect somebody's going to do this and you have them do something different, or you expect they're going to wear this, or you expect them going to listen to certain kind of music and they don't. And then you're like, okay, this is not where I would thought it was going. I'm going to keep paying attention because something about this is, I think, this character is a stereotypical bookworm. And then you find out, she does something crazy, in her nighttime dreams or something. And so that's my favorite thing to do is keep the reader. And it could be, like I said, it could be something they're wearing. It could be, who they hang out with, who their best friend is. Just something that keeps you guessing about a character, I think makes them more real. So that's my favorite thing to do.
Yes. Five in one, as Mr. Brownell talking about. So, how do you find inspiration during writer's block or creative dry spells?
That's a great question too. I think that I don't necessarily look at it as writer's block. I look at it as a couple of different things. One is there are times of the day that I am better at writing certain things than other times of day. Um, and so if I like generally in the late afternoon, I'm not the most creative flowing thing. So, but I can do a lot of research or I can get myself back on track and I just literally start typing out, where am I? Why am I stuck? What do I want to do here? what's what's the issue? And so I'll just kind of like talk to myself by writing to answer those questions. Sometimes I take a tip from Aaron Sorkin. I don't know if you know about Aaron Sorkin, the screenwriter, and he takes a shower, and he's known to take multiple showers a day if he's stuck. So sometimes a shower or a bath or a walk in the woods or on the beach or wherever you live can open up some of those portals. And then sometimes I skip. If I have a scene that I don't know what to write, I'll just move on to the next scene that I do know what to write. And what's weird about that is that when I go back and write that scene, it's often the best writing I've ever done. It's like it had to wait until I was really ready to write it right. And when I do, it's great. So don't be afraid to put a scene off and then come back to it later.
Don't be afraid, people. Show to the world. So, what is the approach to world building in fiction, and how much detail you include?
If you read my books, I'm not super heavy on description. So you're not going to get 3 pages of the ivy growing up the side of the building. Whereas some writers will do that. I am much more into the action, the characters, what they're doing. So in fact, some people find it very interesting that I don't even tell you what the hair color or eye color is of my characters. I like leaving that up to my readers. And what I get so much fun from, so they don't even know what race they are unless race is really important to that particular character and that particular story. And so, but writers love that. I love seeing, who do you think could play this character? And seeing there's a variety of different kinds of people that, the answers that they come up with in terms of actors who they think they can play. So I like leaving it pretty open. And as far as description of scenes, I try to let you feel like you're there without burdening you with dragging it out for like pages and pages of, but let's talk about this thing. And as I mentioned before, if there's a detail, it matters. So that makes you pay more attention because you're like, okay, she's talking about this specific kind of coin that's an antique store. Does that mean anything? And, you may not find that out for a while, what that means, but I guarantee you if it's in there, it means something. So that's what I had more fun with description and world building. Now, as far as a bigger version of world building, in the We Meet Again trilogy, it covers 5 different lifetimes. So we start out in present day with a couple, and then we see them in a previous lifetime in the 1930s in Brazil. And so we get to see a whole different character, a whole different group, different situation. And then we go back to another previous lifetime in the 1500s in Europe and Austria and England. And so they meet Shakespeare, right? They get to some really interesting characteristics and situations there. And that was fun doing the writing of that. And then in the third book, we go into 2 other lifetimes, one including the Black Plague in Italy. So that was really fun. And I also, while I was finishing the novels, I actually moved to Italy for 3 months. So I got some really up close and personal views of that, what I was writing about. Let's put it that way.
That'd be awesome. Buongiorno, buonasera for the Italian people. So, how did you ensure your dialogue feel natural and true to each character?
That's probably one of my biggest challenges, honestly. I know the characters, so I know what they're thinking and I know what they intend in a scene, right? And I try to use the Enneagram. So I know that, okay, this character is going to be more daring, or this character is going to be more of a listener than a talker. This character might be more playful. This character might be more like knowledgeable. So therefore, have some ability to add some of the descriptions that we might need. But I could probably, that's one of the areas I always want to keep improving on.
Very well said. Miss Brownell, very well said. We need to improve ourselves each day. in every aspect of our life. So how uh, do you balance character development in advancing the plot?
Well, um, one thing that was interesting here, I mean, first of all, the characters are driving the plot, right? It's who they were in previous lifetimes and then how they're realizing this. And it's all about their mystery of their past, right? So it's not this external mystery. It's not like it's a Robert Langdon chasing a mystery that doesn't really affect him personally, but he's the expert. This is them looking at their own mystery of their own lives and why are they dealing with stuff today that happened from previous lifetimes when they were together. And because I'll just put it this way, it's a mystery and there is somebody who wants this information and they're getting this information and they are tracing, and it goes into secret societies and this revelation, because when they get to the message of why they were reincarnated in this lifetime, then it's like a big deal. It's a change the world kind of thing. I mean, if you look up the description that I have on the Amazon page, it's an epic reincarnation mystery and love story about a famous couple from history who's reincarnated today to fulfill a prophecy that'll change the world. Well, if you can imagine, there are a lot of people who don't want the world to change, or they want to be the one to change the world, or they want to control the information. So there is somebody after them the whole time. And so as they're tracing this mystery, they're having to look into themselves because it's all coming from who they are and why are they brought back together. And they run into their own obstacles. Excuse me. And so they've got to face their own fears. And, because if they can't do it, can anyone do it? So it's not just Robert Langdon. He's the smart guy. He'll help you find out the clue. It's like, if they can't do it, they're the ones that are destined to solve it. And if they can't solve it, then the mystery may go unsolved, or at least till the next lifetime.
Yes, definitely. So, Miss Brownell, what would be your advice for those aspiring writers out there in terms of metaphysical mysteries?
I want them, if they have a metaphysical mystery story that's about between 1,000 and 3,000 words, send it my way, because I'd love to see it if it would fit with our podcast. I do have an FAQ page on my website, so you can go, and on the Life is a Trip podcast website, so you can see what the rules are. But we really want to showcase writers around the world. So we want to get people interested in writing stories and submitting them to the podcast. They should be a story, just to be clear. It's not like, oh, I remember being a such and such. It should have, as working with writers, beginning, middle, and end. So it's got to have kind of a plot and a conflict and all those kinds of things. But if so, then we would love to look at it. And we are going to, we actually are on IMDb. So if you know the Internet Movie Database, writers are going to get an IMDb credit for their stories if their story gets selected for the podcast. So that is a really big opening for writers and an opportunity for them to promote themselves and to be promoted and have other people listen to the stories and find them that way. So I love celebrating other writers, encouraging them and giving them a platform. The truth is, the reason I did the podcast is that there aren't enough of these stories out there, and I want more of them. And so the more we get out there and support each other, the bigger it can be. And you never know, we might get that call from Hollywood. I actually had an email about a month ago from a Hollywood producer who'd seen the podcast and was like, oh, I'm kind of curious about this. Tell me more. So, that would be such a kick if one of the writers on the podcast got their story made into a film or a movie or a TV show or something.
That'd be awesome. Make a difference. People, so what is your long-term and short-term goals in writing, as well as podcasting?
Yes, as well as podcasting. Well, I have a very personal goal right now. There's a story that you flashed up on the screen that is my most personal story to date. I wrote it earlier this year, and it's called "The End: A Love Story to the Universe," and it's free online or available to download for free online. It's only 9,500 words, so it's a pretty short story. And I just finished writing. There, you see it there on the black on the bottom. Yeah, You don't have to buy it on Amazon. It's free. I just have it up there. But I just
Oh,
wrote
okay.
part 2 of that story, and it's about ready to be released. And spoiler alert: the theme of it, or the subtitle, is "Christmas is Forgiveness." So it's a very
Yes,
powerful
for sure.
theme. Christmas is forgiveness. And so it's a very powerful theme. And what I'm doing is I wrote a song to go with that theme. So if I had a fantasy, it would be my song for next year will be on a bunch of Christmas albums. So that would be super
Wow.
fun. Um, my other goals is, yes, I
Looking
would,
forward.
love to have my screenplays produced. I would love to have my books adapted into film or television. And I just want to keep writing, and in the bigger picture, like I said, I love supporting other writers. I have a Facebook group called Life is a Trip Reincarnation Stories. So you can see us there, and there's over 11,000 people, so join us there, and we'll have it's for telling stories. Basically, it's all about stories, whether they're fictional or factual.
Yes, 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 people. Do support Miss Brownell. So, to sum up our discussion, how do you keep readers engaged from the first page to the last?
Well, I guess the readers are going to have to tell me that. What is it that engages them? Um, it's a very fine line, because you've got to get them interested in the character at the beginning, but you can't just be like, oh, let me tell you about Sue, and she was born in this, and all her backstory. So it can be really challenging. One of the stories that I wrote as a screenplay that I'm going to finish writing as a book, and that one, I start out at the midpoint of the story, and it's right in mid action, and it's like all this stuff happening, and you're reading and going, what in the world's going on? Who are these people? Why are they doing this? And then I weave them back into the other story. So each book can start a little differently. But the more I can start with something that's like right in the middle of action, the better.
Yes, the bigger the better.
The bigger the
So,
better.
Miss Brownell, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
I would love you to support all my books. As I mentioned, the We Meet Again, the first book, is 99 cents until the end of the year. So please pick that up, and please, please, please give me a review. We love reviews. That's going to help me so much. The end. If you go to my website, brownelllandrum.com, so I'm the only Brownell Landrum in the world. You can find me on Facebook, or Google me, and you can find me on YouTube, so you can see a bunch of videos and interviews and all that stuff. Find me on my Life is a Trip group on Facebook. You'll learn more about the podcast that way. And just, hopefully just follow me and share your stories and become part of the community.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Brownell, because if you support her, more books to come, more episodes to come. So, Miss Brownell, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
More to come, people. See you soon. So, Miss Brownell,